So today we have Yusuke Yamamoto, who I think is one of the premier silversmiths in the UK, let alone Wales. Andrew Renton, who is Emeritus Curator of Applied Art at the National Museum. Liz Goring, who wrote the essay on Yusuke and used to be in charge of jewellery and Mediterranean archaeology at the National Museum of Scotland.
Obviously.
Yes.
Good combination.
But they've worked together before, Andrew and Liz, on a wonderful show called Silversmith, which we had works from the P&O Makower collection, which Andrew was managing at the National Museum, and another selection of silver from Liz's fillets across the UK. So I shall leave you to Andrew.
Great. I had the good fortune to visit Yusuke and Satoko, where they live on the Llŷn Peninsula earlier in the summer, and talked to Yusuke about his work. And Yusuke was kind enough to take me to see the place that they had first lived when they moved to Wales, which is a cottage on the estate of the house of Cefn Amlwch, which, if you don't know about it, would be very easy to miss because it's surrounded by trees, and if you don't know it's there, you'd miss it completely. But it's a really magical place, and we were fortunate to have a lovely sunny day with the sunshine glowing in the leaves, and a beautiful sunny day with the walled garden and all the flowers and everything. And I immediately got a strong sense of how at home Yusuke felt there. And I could also immediately understand how inspiring that place was. So for me, sitting here today, I immediately feel a strong sense of connection between that really rather magical place and the work that you can see in the galleries here. It becomes very obvious to me how Yusuke's work is inspired by the place that is now home, in quite a remote but beautiful part of Wales. And the first, I think I'm right, I shouldn't speak for you, but I think that the first major piece that was inspired by living there was the dappled garden dish here, which I'm very pleased to say has been acquired by the National Museum of Wales. So after the exhibition is over, that will be joining the collection, the national collection, which I think is very fitting indeed. We can perhaps say a bit more about that piece a bit later on, but I thought I'll hand over to Liz for the first question.
Yes.
Well, question that this all sounds very informal. I think this is going to be a bit.
It's a starting point, really, for us to
Yeah.
create it's not a dialogue, it's a trialogue, isn't it? No, I wanted to ask you, I wrote the essay, and one of the things I picked up on is that you originally studied steel.
Yes.
And you didn't start working with silver, as I understand it, until after you'd graduated. I'm really interested to know how you found that, the different metals, and how you found your home in silver.
So I used to work blacksmith, and I graduate Japanese University metalsmithing course, and I graduate, and after that I work for university kind of technician, and then at the time I'm making a sculpture, steel sculpture, and I'm making animals and something like that. And then at the time, one of met silversmith, Hiroshi Suzuki. He is quite well known in this country. He back to Japan as a professor, and then I met him in Japan. And then little by little talk with him, because 1 year I work with him as a technician and professor. And then I work with him, and then I work for him. I make his chasing part. I helped his chasing part for his work. And then little by little I inspired from him, and then talk about the market, how to be an artist, how to make living by myself as an artist. I learned from Hiroshi. And then maybe I should go to the UK because of the market wise, and also at the time slightly changing to the silver little by little. So at first I make the silver animal.
Yes.
And then a lot of silver animal I'm making, and then we decided to move to Scotland as an artist in residence at Glasgow School of Art. And then we moved to Glasgow, and then we started, actually I tried to make something new, a new place. But new place, and it's difficult to find the facility. So I used to work for my Japanese university, and then I was a technician, so I can do anything.
Yeah.
I know every stuff, but new place, new new facility, I have no idea at that time. And also my English is horrible at that time. So actually I decide I can do by myself. And then actually metalsmithing technique is quite similar. Every technique is quite similar except casting. So I can do, and also I teach some technique to the student. So I decide what I can do. And then so Silversmith facility is much smaller than blacksmith facility. So it's good for me. And also beauty of silver. And little by little attracted of the beauty of silver. Yeah.
And the decorative possibilities of silver as opposed to steel?
Yeah. And I like the texture of steel.
Yes.
So heat it and then hammer it, and then little by little making texture on the black as a steel surface.
Yes.
It was how to say? It was making steel texture is quite unique, I think.
Yes.
And then move to the silver. Yeah, it's quite different.
Yes.
But making decoration, and then so I felt some similarity, making decoration by myself and blacksmithing, hammering, and also the fire texture made by fire.
Yes.
I felt some similarity. So yes, it is important for us.
You wanted to say something, I think, about the texturing and something that Yusuke said to you a few years ago.
Yes, I was going to ask about. I mean, you've begun to talk about this, but what is it about silver that makes it a particularly good material for expressing your feelings about nature? And I know when I spoke to you before, you mentioned that you were inspired by a particular kind of art, and I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Particular art.
So you mentioned the artist band. For example.
Yeah. So now these couple of years, couple of years ago, I visited the Van Gogh Museum in Holland, and then I really inspired. I just thought, wow, his work, and then it was brilliant, and I inspired his work, and his brush stroke and my punch mark is quite similar. So when I doing punching as making shape and making texture, and his brush stroke is quite similar, I thought.
So it's almost as if you're painting the surface of the silver with your punch mark.
So it takes a long time, but kind of drawing, kind of doodling on the silver surface.
I don't know how many people have had the opportunity to walk around the exhibition yet, but when you do, it's worth looking very carefully at the textures and variety of mark making that Yusuke's managed to achieve on his surfaces. And I think, you know, this idea of being inspired by Van Gogh, and you mentioned pointillism as well.
Yes,
pointillism as well. I think you'll see that very clearly in the work when you go around.
Yeah. So it's almost as if the surface texture that you create is producing an impression, like the Impressionists were producing an impression of a particular moment or a particular experience. You seem to be doing the same with silver.
Yes.
Yeah.
So especially that piece is especially inspired from the Van Gogh piece. This stone is inspired from the Van Gogh's painting, and some of that daffodil bars is I try to capture just one day, one morning. I try to just capture just one scene on the silver, but you know it takes time to making shape and doing the making textures. It's not kind of drawing, but I did sketch and take loads of photo, loads of sketch, and then little by little make that piece for just capture one day.
And I think for me that's one of the most successful pieces in the exhibition, because it does precisely that. It captures that the movement of the leaves in a moment, and the beginning to open of the daffodils against the background of the leaves, and yet it's so time consuming to create that. It's wonderful that we've managed to capture the moment. It's such a lengthy process.
Thank you. And also that movement is I try to capture the leaves and also the movement of the wind, and every like impressionism, background moving of the air or something like that. Try to capture everything in it by chasing. So punch mark and movement of the surface.
So there's something similar between the movement of the silver and the movement in nature.
Yes.
And you try to capture that.
Yes.
I mean, I said we'd come back to the dappled garden dish, and I think for me this really captures so much about your work. And I also remember you talking about you did a chasing course with the Silversmith Rod Kelly, but you made it clear to me that you saw a difference between the kind of chasing that Rod Kelly does, which is quite low relief or flat chasing, and the kind of chasing that you do, which is much more high relief. And I think with the dappled garden dish you really get a strong sense of that high relief and depth to the object. Could you say something about what you were trying to achieve when you made this piece? Because for me it encapsulates so much of what your work is about.
I really, when I went to the workshop and meet and talk with Rod Kelly, I really inspired a lot, and his work is everybody knows his work is beautiful, special, but I don't want to copy his work, and I want make own style, and also I want to this is the first big piece where I start to live in North Wales, and then I want to make not masterpiece, how to say, like a business card. This is Yusuke Yamamoto piece I want to make. So then as much as possible all of my technique show on this piece. So yes, that feeling. And yeah, yes, it's a beautiful place. So loads of motifs I can get easily. So yes, everything in it at that time.
Can I ask you, is this one of the earliest pieces where you are using more naturalistic style as opposed to the more abstract style of some of these, or have you used naturalism before?
Yes, as for me, it is quite both I'm doing,
Yeah.
I think. But little by little getting abstract to the actual motif, come up to the motif.
Yeah.
But as this piece is some of the leaves, you can recognize some of the leaves, like a ginkgo or pine spike, something like motif you can easily get. But some motif is quite
More
abstract.
abstract.
Yes. So mixed together.
Yeah.
But for example, this series.
Yes.
It's Sweet Squammer, its series. At that time, I want to make something repeated pattern design. I want to make. It was like a reptile scale. But when I was in Glasgow, I went to one of the Chinese supermarket, and then I found durian fruits. Durian, large, huge like this fruit, smells quite bad, but tasty. I found that fruit. It was beautiful, just beautiful. So it was image from durian fruit. So it looks abstract, but quite, it was actual motif for me.
Yes. I had no idea that this was inspired from Glasgow.
Not Glasgow, but one of the Chinese supermarket in Glasgow.
Could you tell us about the tools that you use? Because to achieve all those different textures requires not just a lot of skill and a lot of patience, but also the right tools. So could you tell us about the tools you use?
So when I make this piece, I have loads of punches already at the time, but still I need to make some new punches. So I made a lot of punches at that time. And also, luckily, I was used to work as a blacksmith. So easy to make tools by myself in my workshop. So it's a great project for me. And so when I design small design, I need to small punches. So when I make large shape, I need to large punch. So every time slightly change shape, and of course I make punches every time. Not every time, but a couple of times per year I make new punches.
Some of your punches are smooth on the surface,
yes,
and some of them have got texture, haven't they?
Yeah. So it is for me it's fun part of thinking about a new texture. So sometimes heat up the steel and then punch the fire surface or stone and then making that texture, and then almost so try to find new texture every time. Yes.
Could you tell us how many punches do you have?
I wanted to ask that.
I'm not sure, but I have like this steel can. It was I'm using sweet corn one, and then I have four tin of metal, and maybe 20 each or something. So maybe around 100, I think.
But each time you'll make new punches
Yes,
for a particular job.
little by little, getting smaller and smaller.
Yes.
So some punches more, little by little changing.
We were going to talk about scale, I seem to remember, Andrew. Do you want to raise that issue?
Just before I do that, I was just going to say it reminds me of an artist's palette.
Yes.
So you've got a huge palette of punches that you can use.
You can see some of them on the
Yes.
We'll help explain it to you. But certainly, I would have said over the 100, well over the 100. because I was looking at some of the tiny ones
Yeah.
that you must have. And it's also how strong the hammering is,
Yeah.
light, and how fine the silver is.
Yeah. So my punch is made by hard steel. It was a tool steel. It was quite hard, but I'm punching a whole day. So steel rod, but getting wider and wider. Top part is making making T shape. It at first is I shape, but little by little T shape, and then it was rolled for part, and then getting tiny, and then I'm using holding like this. At first it's maybe 10 centimeter, but getting smaller and smaller, and then it will stick my finger and then change.
One thing, if you haven't had a chance to see the publication yet, Stephen, who is over there filming this, took these wonderful photographs of Yusuke's work, and particularly want to draw your attention to the close-ups, where you can see the most fantastic detail of your chasing and the different results that you've got with these different punches that you've been describing. The photographs are wonderful, Stephen.
Yes,
This is a wonderful one. So.
You can see the dot. Each dot is just dots, but I'm using some punches, different shape of dot. Just round punch, but I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4 different punches, size of punches. And this is a line punch and texture punch, something like that. Yeah.
You mentioned this question of scale as well, which I find very interesting, because it's easy at first glance to be captivated by the large objects here, but you also make a lot of small objects, some of them really very small, and you've also been making jewellery, brooches. So working on a small scale seems to be important to you as well. So could you say something about what you enjoy about working on a small scale?
Small scale is, yes, quite. My size is like this size. Maybe handful size is my size. Probably I come to make the large scale work, I think, because I can see everything on this handful size. So maybe like this stuff is my biggest, I think. And then doing small size is quite interesting as well. And also chasing is punching something is quite interesting. Is this, for example, this piece, you can see it looks large, but I'm making punch this part every time. So pile of this part making large piece. So small piece and large piece is quite not so different as work, but small work is finished early. So it was feel achievement feeling is quick. So it's you know how to say it.
Yes.
It's like
You can achieve something quite quickly on a small scale, but something like that, it takes months.
Yeah. So I'm also when I nearly finished the work, dopamine in my head, loads of dopamine in my head. So kind of really excited when I finish work, focus on my work, and so immersed in my work, and my work, and immersed everything in my work. So this time is this part of time is my favorite time when I'm making. So small work is loads of
You get that feeling more often.
much more, yes.
I'm going to take, you've seen the nut boxes in the exhibition, there's 2 of them there, but seeing something in a display case is quite different from seeing it in the round, so I happen to have one here, which I'm very happy to pass around so that you can see the texture and the tiny, I don't know how many punches of the chasing tools you've used here, but it seems extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass that round so people can get that feeling. I'd like it back at the end.
Empty. The box might be empty by the time.
No.
Don't put
Things
pockets.
go.
So if we look, there's a couple of other pieces that I think show use of sort of different techniques or approaches, and one of them is quite a recent piece. It's the vase at the end, which is one of the Blowing in the Wind series. Maybe you could tell us about what the inspiration is behind that piece, and also not just in terms of it, the inspiration from nature, but the shape of the object.
Okay.
Yeah.
So its shape of the object is image from the Japanese, maybe oldest vase. So the shape from the Jomon period, quite old vase. Image come from that. It's quite spread shape and a big spread shape and a feeling easygoing type of shape. Theme. But design is actually I'm living in quite countryside. Also, I'm living in a field, not in a field, next to the field. So I can see the mountain. Grandfathering is a mountain in North Wales, and it was a beautiful view. And it was where my living place is slightly looks like a valley, so every time it's windy. So I really love the scene in front of my house, and then so grass is moving every day, and then just one day I keep watching, keep observing the movement of the grass, and then basically it's moving one way. But sometimes different wind come and then sometimes swelled. So it was very beautiful. Then I designed like that. So in the wind, I designed that vase.
But it communicates that so well, because the first time I saw it, I thought immediately of the grass that grows on the edge of the beach and twists around. Yeah. So it's, when you sort of told me it was a wind, that's what, got it.
And the rim,
yes.
the way you cut the rim captures that as well.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're doing more of, producing, making the rim more complicated?
Yeah, sometimes yes. Yeah. So maybe rim will be influence of design inside of the design. So I don't want to finish when I make the vase. I don't want here is finish. I don't want to say this is finish. I don't want to move. Shape is finished here, but movement will be go through the vase. It makes sense. So
you see it again on the daffodil vase. It's continual. You get a sense of it continuing upwards. Yeah.
So try to continue the movement after the vase.
And that vase was made in two parts.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yes. Bottom part and top part is two parts. I hammer raised separately. So at first hammer raised the bottom part, and then in my head I inspired. I want to make like that Japanese traditional vase, a traditional vase, a historical vase, maybe oldest vase in Japan, like this shape. It was for the. It was maybe used for the ceremony. But anyway, I inspired from that shape, and then in my head, that shape is in my head. So at first, hammer raise the bottom shape, and then put on the market on it, and then after that, design the top part design, top part shape. I mean.
The other one that we wanted to draw attention to was the double skin bowl, which is nearer to you than it is to us. I think it's just behind you, Leslie, is it? And the double skin one.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and if you haven't yes, it's this one. If you haven't had a chance to peer at the underside of that, Stephen's photograph brings this out really clearly. Yusuke's done something really quite extraordinary here and cut away,
Piercing the bottom.
piercing the bottom. Yeah, would you like to say something?
Yeah. So make at first make the ball and then pierce it, and then at that time I want to make much more sculpture bars. So I make the hole bottom of the ball. So I didn't use it anymore, but it must be interesting, I thought. And then I did pierce and then design ball and then pierced and then did slightly different design on it. But it was not good reputation from the customer and some of gallerists. So one gallerist don't like the design, and then a couple of years later it was not so good reputation, so put on the inner ball design and then connect together. So inside is a slightly different design. So this is titled Sea Ice, image from the sea ice, and then inside it will be slightly different design.
Where's the pitter-patter bowl?
Pitter-patter ball is, yes, there.
It's just
Yeah, just there.
Oh,
Yeah, water
this is-
dropping
yeah,
pattern.
yes, yeah. Can you say something about that?
It was titled pitter-patter, you know, the water dropping sound, pitter-patter sound. So, 5-6 years ago, when I stayed in the friend's house, not friend's house, friend's caravan, I stayed there. When I slept there, loads of water, at that time, started rain. And then, you know, caravan's roof is quite thin and metal. So dropping sound is quite noisy. And also, you know, rain drop is not rhythmical. How to say? Something like that. And the image from that sound and water dropping, so image comes from that.
Yes. One of the things that I wrote in my essay in the publication was that you use all your senses to, when you interpret your work in silver, and that includes sound. And that was what I had in mind, was that sound has appeared there in concrete form in that very beautiful bowl.
So every day, probably every day, every time, and maybe some percent of my brain thinking about new design, looking for some new motif, something new, inspiration every time. So sometimes.
So it's not always visual. It can be sound. It can be movement.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and just one day, click in my head. Some parts is connected in my head, and then become outcome like this design.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I find very interesting, and the inspiration here is partly from nature, but it's from language as well, which is the set of 3 brooches in the bottom of the.
And I'm probably the only one that can
cabinets on
see
the
this at the
wall.
moment.
Yeah. But they're worth having a look at. Could you tell us about the inspiration behind those?
Yeah, this is concept. This concept is concept coming from the Rosetta Stone. This concept made by Philip. Philip advised me for the workshop, Rosetta Stone workshop, and then I inspired from that workshop, made these three brooches. Left one is gin. Gin is meaning silver in Japanese. So Japanese, it was come from Japanese, design from Japanese letter, gin. And center one is iron, Welsh language meaning silver as well. So right one is silver, image from silver. So it was designed from the image of silver and also shape of letter.
This, to explain a bit further, was a project we did with a poet called Amgueddfa, who's a clown bard, and she worked with Yusuke, with young people at Coleg Menai, to understand his techniques and to look at the difference of the names of each of the techniques in Japanese, Welsh and English. And that's what Yusuke came up with as a record of that, which is go to the National Museum as well, couldn't it?
So work with Eleanor Green is she is a Welsh poet, and she is a really lovely person, and talk with her, and then loads of inspiration give me, and then design like this, and then we talk about the. I heard maybe wave, in the ocean. Welsh language have 40 different waves. That's probably she said, 40 or much more, she said. And then it was quite interesting. So start point is like this point, and then designed, yes.
But it also reflects your experience at
Yes,
doesn't it?
Yes.
And my daughter is 4 years old now, and she started school last year. And now, so she learning Welsh in school and speaking in Japanese in my home, and she speaks childminder in English. So she's she's great, greater than me. She's training now. Yeah. So
How's your Welsh?
sweetie he, Diane. Every morning talking with postman. Boreda, sweetie he, Diane. That's it. My Welsh is that it. So yes, I take my daughter to school and pick my daughter from school, and every time she brought back the Welsh textbook, quite a small little picture book, and then read it together. I'm not a read. She read to me.
Yes.
And Japanese picture book, I read her.
I think it's a lot easier to learn when you're 4.
Another thing I was going to ask about is in some of the pieces you can see little flashes of gold.
Oh, yeah.
And I was wondering, could you explain the technique involved? And could you also say why you use gold as well?
So this technique is nunome inlay. Nunome means textile texture. So it's one of inlay technique. It was probably it come from the Silk Road to Japan, and it was come. I don't remember the right year, but it come to Japan, and it was spread maybe 200 years ago. The samurai have a sword, Japanese sword, and it was for the sword decoration technique. It was on the steel, but I'm using it on the silver as a decoration technique. Yes, this is applied on silver because try to be unique, unique silversmith. So I started to use this one, but I think it was silver and gold is maybe good combination, I think, as decoration. So I started to use it. So something, how to say, something I think eye catch.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like a slightly different flash of light.
Yeah.
And that brings us almost full circle back to what you were saying at the beginning when you went to visit and the sunlight coming through the leaves, and you're just getting that flash of sunlight, warmth on the slightly cooler silver.
Yeah. So on the sea ice piece is not this one, but first time I inlaid piece is sea ice design. And this design this is ice part, but some part is cracked, some part is loads of frost, and some part is loads of bubble in it, and some part is catch the sunshine. So like that image. So I designed. I'm I do chasing with texture. I'm using loads of texture. So I want to add one more new texture. That is golden light. So and also I learned engraving technique from Malcolm Appleby. And the engraving is for me one of the texture.
I'm sure some of you might have a question or two. So Andrew, right at the back.
Yusuke, I'm absolutely astonished at the quality of technique here. It's just mind-blowing. But I'm fascinated by the background you were talking about. I've always been interested in the relationship between engineering and art. And you've already talked about the various ways that you've experienced that. To me, the repousse and chasing punches are really an extension of the human body, in the sense that they're almost like another finger, and it's so important that the making of those is personal to you.
Yes.
Would you agree? I'm going to cause a bit of controversy here, but you mentioned painting and how it influenced you. An artist uses a brush. I would put forward the idea that it's much easier to use a brush and to pick up a brush from the shop.
Yes.
Than to make the punch. And is there of that collection of 100, are there one or two that are really very favourite fingers that are so precious that if you lost them, you would be devastated? Could you just say a little bit about how the forging that you learned as a blacksmith came through into the punch making?
It's a maybe not silversmith, and also not as a blacksmith. When I start, I learned metalsmithing technique in Japan at Japanese university. And when I started to measure in the metalsmithing course, at first, making tool is the first subject. So it's quite natural for me to making tools. But also yes, so making tool is quite important part. Especially I doing silversmithing here, and I'm still using Japanese technique as well. So I need Japanese tools sometimes. So I made by myself as much as possible. I made Japanese tool by myself, and then if difficult, I make drawing, and then ask local blacksmiths, can you make like this shape or something like that.
And you mentioned you draw from nature.
Oh yes.
It strikes me that you are using punches here to draw beautifully. I mean, the quality of line to produce with a punch is, I know, not easy. And you seem to be translating from the graphite pen. Would you agree that a punch you draw with a punch, and do you sometimes draw creatively on the surface without referring too much to the sketchbook? Do you let the material take it?
Both.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of sketch, and then my making process is at first hammer raise and then making shape, and then I decide design on the paper, and then drawing on the silver. Next step is drawing the silver on directly with pencil and pen. At first pencil, and then decide the final line is drawing pencil, pen. After that, start to chasing. So on the drawing on the paper and drawing silver is different. Also, when I started chasing, metal will move little by little. So last shape is different from the drawing completely.
Material dictates.
So size and slightly is everything different. So every time quite new, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Yusuke. And thank you all very much for coming. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.